Hello, hello, and happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isaiah Kilgan with me as usual, and Alani is back.
Our long national
I know,
nightmare
right?
is over. We have returned to the ways of the Alani. So, we both have cherry twist today.
I know, everything is right with the world. You get a quick Alani check at the top of the
Yeah.
show. Not really a whole lot to cover today. Open Beta 13 went live yesterday. Got lots of great feedback. We did have a hotfix that went live yesterday as well that we are going to cover really quick. So let me bring up the handy dandy desktop. Boom. So for the hotfix that went live yesterday, we fixed a few things. Fixed an issue where Mercury could use his special delivery 3 while rooted/crippled. We fixed an issue where cripples would stop Mercury's sonic boom. Mercury's sonic boom should now be a little bit less sensitive when you're colliding with world geometry. The team is still working on more improvements in this area, so just be on the lookout for more things in that front. And then last but not least, we fixed an issue with a few items: Obsidian Shard, Demon Blade, Stone of Binding, and Hasten Fatalist. We're not providing item stats or effects, so that has been fixed up. So if you're building those items, everything should be back to normal. And then we've got another hotfix that is kind of in flight that is planned for hopefully a little bit later this afternoon. I know a couple of things in that hotfix are things like Mercury's auto attacks being desynced if you use the 2 kind of mid auto attack chain. There's also a fix for adding knockup immunity to Mercury's dash. That was something that we missed. That was a Smite 1 parity thing, as well as some crash fixes and a couple of other like small minor things that are going to be in this hotfix, hopefully coming out a little bit later on this afternoon. So keep an eye out for that. That was everything that I kind of had on my list, but Open Beta 13 went live. Kilgoon, you have anything that you want to talk about before we open up the floor?
No, I want to say, obviously, patch went live yesterday. Definitely still working through feedback that we've been getting from people. We don't really have it. Usually our data is at least a day or 2 delayed to really get an idea of how things are performing. So, obviously we have like first blush data, but it isn't the most reliable, and you usually need to wait a day or 2 to really get good stats. So we're still kind of seeing how things are panning out, both in terms of balance and in terms of how our new experiments are running. Love to hear from y'all about how some of this stuff is. There is some stuff we're still working through with quick play queue configuration where it isn't quite routing players the way that we want right now. And there's a little bit more work to be done there. But just in general, how do you feel about the things we've added to the new mode? We're excited, generally speaking. I would say we also are not going to be here on Friday.
Yes. Good point.
But we will be here next week with yet another update. So I think what we probably will be doing is Monday we'll probably talk a little bit about the new gods coming after the next god, the next 2 gods probably, because they'll be spoiled when we flash tests on Wednesday otherwise. Then on Wednesday we'll do kind of a full patch note show
for Open Beta 14, show off Sun Wukong and then all the other stuff that's in that update as well.
Yep. And then I don't know what we'll do on Friday, and then probably we'll do the full patch notes on Monday before the patch. So kind of a little bit of a what to expect. I will not be here next Friday or the Monday after. I got a little family vacation, so it'll just be Isaiah and whoever his guests are.
Likely someone from the design team, because at that point we'll probably do like game balance stuff on Friday's show and then full patch notes overview on Monday.
So that's what we have to look forward to. But because we do have such a kind of busy schedule coming up for next week, we figured, and it's about to be a holiday weekend here in America, we figured, hey, a good day of Q&A and getting your feedback and reactions to what happened with the update yesterday and your vibes on everything. So, not a huge show, but a fun show, hopefully.
Yeah. And then next week, we're going to have some bangers back to back.
Busy.
So
Busy week
should
next
be
week.
really good. So we're going to open up the floor. Chat, we're hanging out until about 2 o'clock today. So what are your vibes on Open Beta 13? How are you feeling?
Yeah.
Have any questions about anything? Or if you just want to drop some feedback or bug reports in chat, I will bring up Notepad and take some notes as well.
Can we spoil the next gods with a game of Hangman?
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. Maybe we should do something like that.
Oh, that could be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. There's another question. Do people like the combat dodge? I would love to hear your feedback on it. Generally speaking, I think the feedback anecdotally, because we only hear from like small pockets of the community, but overall, we've heard from a lot of people that they seem to be really enjoying the combat dodge. It might be one of people's favorite features of quick play. It seems like the vibe that I have so far is people do not notice the increased attack speed, like, but it probably does feel a little bit better. So not game breaking, but is a thing. And then there's some other stuff that is in the update too. Yeah. So Medusa bot is a straight menace.
I told y'all.
We told you. She's so good. I don't know. So
she just holds W at you. Like, it's insane.
Our dev team has been working a little bit to improve the bots and improve the way that they think and react to the game and all of that. So Medusa bot is one of the first ones using the new tech. Ganesh also uses the new tech, and they made some updates to Raw using the new tech.
Oh, nice, cool.
So, like, that hopefully is pretty fun to play against. I'll say I've had a lot of surprisingly close games. If I'm not if I'm playing one of my characters I'm really really good at, then it can be more of a blowout. But if I'm not like on my top characters, some of them can be more close than you would expect, because if they get a Medusa bot and something else, that's pretty good. So. Roguelike building is fun. Yeah, I think that we have, we'd love some more feedback too on what's good, what's bad about the roguelike building, so we can keep improving it. I saw a really good Reddit comment, which I know sounds surprising, but I saw a really good Reddit post. I'm just kidding. I actually love Reddit. I'm on Reddit all the time. I saw a really good Reddit post that was like, it'd be great to have a amount of gold until my next item counter on screen. So I kind of know like how long I have until I need to go back and get another item. You also are supposed to be getting notifications to go back to base when you hit that gold threshold to get another item, but those aren't working right now. So that's something we need to fix. But I thought that was a really good idea. I'm definitely interested in other ideas for how we can make it better. When is Lore Lady announcer pack coming?
I want to apologize about that. We announced on the show that we thought it was going to be. We had talked about it internally, and I was pretty confident it was going to make it in this update, but it seems like it just slipped. So whenever we do the next pass for announcer packs, she will almost certainly be included. I'll just have to double check and triple check with Kellen and the folks to make sure that she is included. But she is still on the list. She will make her way into Smite 2 as soon as we can get to her.
Yep. Somebody asks, have Beach Babe skins doubled your revenue on skins yet? That's funny. We actually, once again, going into how data can be like a day or two delayed, like we have the firm, like Steam gives you pretty up to date how your sales are going. And then from the other platforms, we tend to be a day or two delayed in understanding exactly what our sales were. We do know how like in-game sales went, but that doesn't always translate into like dollars because sometimes people can be spending diamonds that are free that they've accumulated or, that they bought previously, which if they bought previously, it is money, but it's like delayed revenue. So, we don't really, it'll be another day or so before we really know how the patch did in terms of revenue.
Let's see here. Mercury Dash is bugging when hitting. I will spin around. No one as the target walks away. He spins a lot longer than normal and becomes uncontrollable until spinning stops. Yes, I've heard a couple of different aspects about this that both affect Mercury, and I've seen the clips of like the infinite spinning that if Mercury either hits with his dash or hits an ult that are affecting enemies as well, and I know that's something the team is looking into.
Hey Kilgoon, you mentioned last show that account level progression doesn't matter. I hard disagree. Getting to level 160 in Smite 1 was a huge accomplishment for me. It'd be awesome to expand on this. I think that's fair feedback. I think I just meant like you kind of have a combination of like short-term goals and long-term goals as you're playing. And there's historically in playing Smite, like people like a lot of like visible short-term goals to be working towards, and those are the more important ones. And then the longer-term goal is like your account level progression. In Smite 1 also, the way it was like worked out, you kind of realize that like, oh man, it's actually a huge accomplishment to getting to these really high account levels because it takes so long to do the last few levels. So I think that like that is good feedback that there is something special towards when you have to work for something and, being able to say, hey, I did it. It's kind of cool. You reminded me, I'm only level 159 on Smite 1. Yeah, level 159 takes like almost as long as the rest of the levels.
It does.
I'm exaggerating slightly, but it's an incredibly long level. This is an old EverQuest one had, when they first came out, had hell levels, is what the player base called them. I don't know what the devs call them. But the way that their XP curves worked, like basically every like 10 levels, you had a level that was like 5 times as long as the other levels. And it was just like, you made a lot of progress, and then it was like, oh my God, I'm level 39 for 3 weeks, you know, because it was really hard to level in that game. And you always felt like a sense of accomplishment once you got past that level. But that game was also just like brutal, and you could lose XP when you died. So then you would get knocked back down into hell level again, and you'd be like, my life is over. So yeah, great game. I played a ton of EverQuest 1 back in the day.
Yeah. Are there any updates on the God tokens I haven't received past level 50? We were talking about this a couple days ago.
Yeah, I think there was, so we followed up on this, and I think there was a miscommunication internally where people did not realize that the design intent was to keep giving them out after 50.
Yeah.
Like, because when we initially set it up, we didn't have 50 gods, right? Or we had just about 50 gods. And we were like, we'll give that many out, and then we'll add more tokens later, because we didn't want people to be sitting on it. Somehow, through the grapevine, that got
the game
confused.
of telephone.
Yeah. And they thought, no, we only want to give out 50 ever. That wasn't our intent, but it was just, we've tracked down what the problem was, and they're going to get that set up. I'm not sure if it'll be in for OB13. I would hope, but I don't exactly know how much work it's going to be to fix that going forward. But yeah, I do want to apologize for that, because that wasn't something intended, and we just haven't heard from many people that they weren't getting tokens after 50. So that was a total mistake, and sorry about that. I will say, we do have like a tremendous percentage of our player base that gets to level 50 has bought the God pack. So it's probably just, it's a relatively small percentage of players that are affected by this, but still not something we intended. So we will get that fixed up. Are we going to get the German Todesberg announcer pack at some point? He would probably be one of the ones that we would ask if that's okay, because he was like an actual Hi-Rez employee. I miss him. He's a good guy. He's been gone for a long time, but he was a real neat guy. He came out to Atlanta several times, and I went out to the UK because he was working out of the UK office and hung out with him a lot. So we would definitely, people that used to work here, we generally ask for, because this is maybe a little too like in the weeds, but I think people like it when I go lower in the weeds. Basically, like if I pay you as a voice actor to get your announcer pack, then I have the rights to that announcer pack. And I don't feel like I really need to ask you what I do with that, right? Whereas most of the people that recorded announcer packs that worked at Hi-Rez just did it because that was fun. And they didn't get paid anything extra to their normal salary, because they just thought that would be a fun thing to have my announcer pack in the game, right? Like you got to do an announcer pack for that one like competition that we did.
That was so much fun.
And I was hoping that I would win. Nobody knew who I was back then, but I was hoping that I would win, so I would get an announcer pack, right? It's just something people wanted to do. So if you don't work here anymore, we don't want people to feel like we're taking advantage of them, or if they don't want to be associated with it anymore. Especially, some people work for like different game studios now, and they don't want to be seen, like whatever, right? Like people can be weird. Not people can be weird. Things can be weird about that, right? So we just want to make sure with people that used to be employees that did it kind of as this is a fun thing, that they're on board with it versus the ones that we actually paid people for. In the weeds, plants. Sylvanas uses plants. Sylvanas confirmed the next 2 gods. Who is Pepe Sylvia?
Right.
It's I love the conspiracy theories. We will talk about the next 2 gods coming to Smite 2
on Monday. Maybe we'll play a game of Hangman or two, Let's see here. Someone reported that they were unable to see their mouse icon in the shop all day yesterday. They had to use controller on PC.
I know that Xbox with mouse cannot see the pointer right now. It works, but it's invisible. Is this a...
Were you play, or do you play on the Xbox app on PC?
Oh.
That might be,
We might need to prioritize that more than I thought.
That's a good point.
We can double check that.
That would explain it.
I was like, we've gotten a couple of reports of it, and I was like, very few people use the mouse on Xbox.
This person says they use Steam. Huh.
That's very weird. It's a PC with controller issue, Christy Dixon says. It's not passing seamlessly from controller to KBM without alt tabbing out. Okay, we'll take a look at that.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, appreciate it. I know you posted something about that in the ambassador forum too. So or Discord, not forum. It's 2025. We don't use forums. So I did read that, and we posted something in the chat, but I didn't fully grasp that that's what was happening. So thank you. Can we remove the hit marker but keep the kill icon? The kill icon's really cool, right? Yeah. Currently, we don't have the support to split those out. Maybe something that we could add at some point in the future, but probably not immediately. I would say the one piece of feedback that we have been getting more is like an ability to turn off the hit marker sound.
Yes.
But I was talking with Kellen a little bit about, maybe we'll take another look at the sound and see if we can. I don't think it's bad, but a lot of people have given the feedback that it isn't exactly what they were expecting. So.
Yeah, especially with the feedback that I've seen is just like ticking abilities, or if like you have red buff, it can get a little bit kind of weird.
It needs more oomph, dude. Look, it's Kyle says. I love the kill icon. Yeah, dude. Like, this is a very weird thing, but sometimes I will play a game of Smite on the console at my desk because I have all the consoles at my desk so that I can make sure the game's working on the consoles too, and I won't have headphones on. And I feel like over the last 2 updates with the directional damage thing and with the hit markers and kill marker, like, I feel like my ability to play the game with no audio has gone up tremendously. Like, cause I just visually on screen have so much more reference to what's going on around me that I didn't have without headphones on before. So I think, hopefully other people feel the same way. I know some people don't like it. People, whenever you make any change to the game, there's going to be a group of people who are like, I liked it better without the thing. But I think that overall it's, kind of positive. This is a good comment. Are we going to do a pass on the options menus sometime soon? All the new customization options are great, but knowing where each of them are is getting confusing. Yeah. Our options menu is not the greatest. I think we're actually going to be talking about it in a meeting later today.
Nice.
I don't know when it's going to get done, so I'm not saying it almost certainly won't be OB14 because we're off on Friday and we branch on Monday night. So there's not that many more work days to get like new stuff into OB14. Like normally we try and have like at least the bones of any new feature in by branch. So there's only like 2 more work days realistically before we branch. So probably not a whole new option screen by OB14, but I do know that we've been getting that feedback more and more. And we noticed it internally because like, which tab is that in again? Because like usability and gameplay and UI are all kind of
interlinked depending on what you're looking for. Like,
yeah.
Let's see. Someone in chat, Small Boy Kitch asks or says, level 10 feels like it's too long to play against bots for. Please lower the cap. It will screw new player retention.
Yeah, so we've been getting this feedback from various channels. I will say there's some things about the way the quick play queue flows that aren't working quite properly yet. So the experience will be a little bit different than what you're seeing right now. I don't want to talk too much about it because like I think it's one of those things that for us to get good data, it's better to see how people actually react to the flow through it versus hearing first what it's going to be and then having preconceived notions about it. So there are a few things that we're still working on it. I would say, I'm going to say 2 things. First thing is that you are all very active players of the game. That's the audience that watches Titan Talk, right? And you guys have great feedback on almost every aspect of the game. But the one thing that you guys are not is new players. And the best way that new players can give us feedback is by the things they actually are doing in the game. So more so than any other aspect of the game, we lean really heavily on specific data about new player activities. And it's like, if we change X thing, do people play more games? And if they do, then that's them telling us that they like the game better that way. Historically, whenever we have forced more bot games onto people, they have played the game more. Again, I don't know if we have the exact right flow through quick play right now. There's some things that we already, aren't working the way we want it to go. And we, but we're going to like look at what the data says, and then we'll make changes as the data guides us here. And people who are like, but I was playing with new players, and that's what they told me, right? In this specific case, you are kind of biasing them because they are playing with an existing player, right? And their experience is going to be different than a truly new player experience. Like that's just by themselves, that's just solo queuing, right? And that's something that we see always in our data is that like, if you are a player who is brought in by another player and parties up with that player, the way that you engage with the game is going to be very different than I see game on Steam, I download, I play it, and then I see where my journey takes me, right? It's awesome that you're bringing new people into the game. And like, I love that. I think that part of what we need to reconsider is like how we're handling groups in this world. I think, previously we really wanted to make sure that like the way it worked previously is you couldn't get dragged out of like early bot matches until you were level 5. Because even then we saw that like, if you drag your friend into a match, even if it's not like your elo, even if we were to like lower elo and have you play a match at their level, they're still going to have a bad time because they don't know the game enough yet. Right. Like, and we have very like, it's like friend drags the person in, person goes 0-10, friend goes 20-0, and they still win the game, but the friend maybe doesn't stick around as much. Right. So we do think that even in those cases, it's worthwhile that like people are like, the data says to us that it's worthwhile to make sure people at least have a couple bot games under their belt before they start playing against real people. But I think that for people that are being like guided by a friend, sure. I think that the feedback of being stuck for 10 levels might be too long, right? But for people who are truly just by themselves new, don't have somebody guiding them, it might be more appropriate. And so we're just getting all the data on this, I will say also, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm literally running through this myself.
I saw
today.
you hitting the queues at your desk earlier.
I made a fresh account. I just wanted to confirm how long it does take new players to get to, X level or whatever, right? And from the time I turned on my account to the time I was level 5, which is how far I got this morning, was 43 minutes. And to be clear, that is taking advantage of like the new player quests that are on the home screen because those give you a lot of account XP. But you can get to level 5 in 43 minutes, which is a pretty basic. I don't even really know what's going on in the game. Yeah. Right. So we're going to look at the data. I'm going to like give my subjective playing through it experience and see how long it takes me. But we just want to make sure that we're doing what's best for new players. And I think the way that we can know if we're doing that is by looking at data, in this case particularly. 43 minutes, obviously not min-maxing. Yeah, I probably could have done it a little bit better. And winning is actually not, doesn't affect your account XP that much in early levels. It's mostly a multiplier of like, how long are you in game? And then are you doing the new player quests?
Someone says, please fix the Ascension Pass bug giving reduced worshippers before the 2x XP weekend. We've dug into this, and we believe that in the end of match lobby, it is purely a visual issue. But if you go to the actual mastery page, you're getting the correct amount of worshippers.
Okay.
We had a couple of people go in. A couple of the ambassadors were talking about it as well. We believe this is just a visual issue, but we're still digging into it.
Yeah. What's the feedback on Action Camera? Everyone in my group didn't like it. I would say we're still waiting to get like the more data-driven feedback on how new players react to it, which is really the audience that it's primarily meant for. I will say the anecdotal feedback that we have gotten from new players has been very positive about Action Cam. the anecdotal feedback we have gotten from existing players has been very negative about Action Cam. And I think it's just like you're used to playing the game in a certain way. Arguably, like for a game like Smite, I can see the argument for why it should be played in the perspective that it traditionally has been played in. But for new players, the game seems much more what they were expecting, I would say. Yeah. I think the one piece of feedback that we have gotten from a new player is that I think is like valid feedback that we don't have as good of a solution for yet is like they didn't understand the range on their ranged auto attack. And they were like, I'm shooting this guy, he's in my reticle, why am I not hitting him? And it's like, oh, well, you're out of the basic attack range. So I think, some more communication there definitely if we continue down this path. But we're definitely... And then somebody else says, Action Cam with a larger god is a little bit much. So there's a couple gods that I think obscure the screen a little bit more than we would like.
And then a couple of smaller gods, we are aware that it just looks a little odd. Scylla, poor Scylla, she's just towards the bottom of the screen.
Tiny person, Some people are just short. I'll say, I think the tiny ones are less gameplay effect. They don't affect you as much as the big ones who block your view. I think Emir is actually the worst offender. And if Action Cam is something that we continue with, then theoretically for Action Cam we could modify the animation posture very slightly to drop the hammer. So drop the hammer is a good word. So that it's not in your field of vision as much. I think there's a lot of tweaks that we can make to address those things if the overall feel of it is good for new players.
Here's an interesting question. Is the studio prepared to break the MOBA model a little bit and really push the boat on what they are willing to try?
I would say yes.
Hesitantly,
because I think that there are some things that are core to how a MOBA works.
And I think the most important thing is we want to make sure Smite is Smite, right? We don't want to get rid of that core experience that players know and love.
Yeah, that's very well stated. Excellent point, right? Smite, no matter what we do, Smite still needs to feel like Smite, right? And our goal hasn't ever been to change what Smite is at its core. It's to find how can we make the best version of Smite and how can we welcome more players to see why Smite's so fun, right? So a lot of the changes that we've been making are things that are modern gameplay conveyances that Smite just never had because it was invented before these things happened and we didn't think about them, right? Hit markers and kill markers, or the directional damage thing or the hit reaction flashes, all this stuff was not in games when Smite came out. And it just, we think, makes the game a better version of itself to have these modern gameplay conveyances. Some of the other things that we're testing, like the roguelike item building, the faster projectiles, all that, it's can we make a couple tweaks to the formula to better welcome new players so that they stick around a little bit longer, they're having fun, and they see what the game's all about, and then they fall in love. I think that then the next, figuring out what the best things are for those groups that still are within the This is Smite banner, I think that we are willing to push on what Smite has been a little bit in the past. But I mean, a MOBA is always going to have, there's going to be minions. There's going to be, you get gold and experience, you level up, your abilities get stronger, you get better items. There's certain core elements of a MOBA that I don't think we intend to change. But I think that we're willing to take some risks.
Yes.
You mentioned before that a lighting update was top of your list. Do you have any specific personal thoughts on how you think the lighting for Smite 2 should look? More glowy, shadowy, dramatic, colorful, etc. I do have very specific thoughts, but it's very difficult for me to talk about art things in a way that makes sense. I am not an artist. It's one of my great failings in life. And I very rarely have the vocabulary to accurately describe things in a way that another, like an actual art person can be like, oh yeah, I understand what he wants from this. So I am much more of like here are visual examples of things I like, and then this is the best I can do to explain why I like them and why I think they work and would work for our game. So I have basically like the best I can explain it really quickly, and please don't hold me to this because this is my initial feedback and I'm not good at talking about art. So I might be saying the wrong thing. I might not be saying what I actually mean or want, but I think it's worth talking about the question. Generally speaking, I think that multiplayer games need to be generally pretty brightly lit overall. Like, people like playing in well-lit environments. I think that you want the colors to appear vibrant and to pop without being like, bright environments can often wash out colors, and I don't want things to look washed out. I also don't want things to feel like oversaturated, which I think is the other thing that can often happen with bright lights. I think that there should be shadowed areas, but I don't think that they should be like you are fighting in the dark when you are in the shadows. I think that it's kind of like a slightly stylized, realistic-ish kind of look is what I tend to like in games, and what I think would fit Smite, right? It would be like more of kind of a modernization of what Smite historically did that doesn't feel like we're going too far in any one direction. So yes, that's my best I can describe it. Hopefully that sounds reasonable to you all.
Let's see here. I saw someone asking about if we had any data or stats on Mercury and how he's performing. Kind of like you mentioned earlier, it's going to take a little bit of time for us to get balanced data for Mercury since it's just barely been 24 hours since he's been out. And it usually takes a little bit over a day for us to kind of get that. I will say, just based off of my early community perusing, it seems like he's just like generally okay. Kind of in the middle. There are also some pretty bad bugs that were affecting him that could probably be impacting his performance as well. Demon Blade and Fatalis, a couple items that players have probably been using weren't working properly. The knock-up immunity is missing on his dash. There was the issue with cripples affecting his ultimate that was probably impacting him negatively as well. So once we get all that stuff polished up, we'll take a look. But we should be starting to get some early data here, hopefully by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. The Bart announcer pack is not unlockable. I think that
should be fixed now.
Yep. Also, we screwed up and we did not make the Sobek Land Shark available for direct purchase as well, which was the intent. So I believe that should also be now available for direct purchase.
Yeah. Yeah, he got added to the chest, but he wasn't priced for direct purchase. So people that didn't want to roll the chest didn't have an option.
And our like monetization guy who does all of this setup has been like working remote at a family like retreat over the past 2 weeks. So he's kind of been like half in and not like in the office. So it was just one of those things that slipped because, he's working on Starlink internet from an RV or something, right? So apologies for that. Yeah. Is there an example game that could describe the lighting that you're talking about? I have a lot of examples in mind, but I think that there are, even within individual games, there's different areas of those games that can be lit very differently. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to like call them out here. I would say just like let us cook a little bit. I think in the next month or so we should hopefully have a lighting update, and we'll see how it goes there. Somebody had a really good question, which is, can we add jump stamps to the dodge? I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Asking the hard questions. So this is an interesting one. We talked about this, Curasite. Instead of picking an item to buy, can Quick Play have you pick your next item to buy so that you'll automatically pick up tier 1s and 2s when possible, rather than having to wait to buy an entire tier 3? So we talked about this, but we felt like this was much harder to communicate to players because it's like I see Kronos Pendant and it says your cooldowns go down. And I'm like, I want that. And I click on it. And then I
gem.
don't get that. And then, like, I think that there potentially is a way to communicate that. But we felt like it was just a lot more confusing to new players, which is really what this is intended to be, right? And then, like, when we, if this is something that's well received, I think like one of the next steps is like building a tab into the store that surfaces this information so that if you're playing a mode without this kind of building, you can basically do the same thing, but also have access to the full item store if you want to go that way, right? And obviously in that world, you would be able to like right click on it or double click on it to buy the components up to a certain point, maybe even single click, because that's how it works. But you would be able to like buy the components up to a certain point. And we would have to have some visual on it that's like, you can buy 70% of this item or whatever, right? Like, but we felt like specifically for the audience that we're trying to target with this system, it was better to be like, I see thing, I click thing, I get thing. I understand that I now have Chronos Pendant. Can we make the roguelike quick play shop specifically for Vulcan mods? I keep forgetting to buy them. I believe it does work with Vulcan mods, but do you mean like in every mode you want like the pop-up to make sure you buy your Vulcan mods? That's not a bad idea. It could be fun.
I know we had talked about like something kind of like the message that we have for like walking out of a base without a relic, specifically for Vulcan. Like if you leave the base without a mod, like something pops up and says, hey, don't forget your mod.
Mm-hmm. This is a good question that I don't know the answer to. Maybe you do. Does every item have a mythological background for its name, or do some just have random names like Ancient Signet, Bloodforge, Bracer of the Abyss, Devourer's Gauntlet, Divine Ruin, Soul Reaver? Are those referencing anything mythological?
I am not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do know that people who have watched this show, I've brought this up once before, but Bancroft's Talon.
Mm-hmm.
Bancroft is not a mythological figure. Bancroft was a character in Global Agenda, Hi-Rez's first game, and it was a throwback to Global Agenda. So there are some non-mythological referencing items, but I don't know about the I don't know about those specific ones you called out. I like mythology. I'm not the mythological buff on the staff here.
Yep. Are you keeping some of the gods that seem easier to port, Osiris, Jingtian, Xbalanque, etc.? So it will be easier if you go back to one god a week.
I would say not intentionally. I will say that Osiris has come up as a god that would be pretty easy to port. Xbalanque, there's a little bit of like animation rigging model stuff that we would I don't know exactly, but I know there's some art stuff that we would want to update on him that would be make him a little bit harder than just like some gods. Every god's harder for certain departments is the thing to remember. And Jing Chen, I don't know if you remember, Jing Chen, like his leap was like one of the most bugged things in Smite 1 for a long time.
There was a whole arc where it was like the fixed Xing Tian arc. Where
he was like disabled for like a
we
month
disabled him and cooked him for a little bit.
So I think it was what am I trying to say? Every god has its pros and cons in terms of why we're going to slot him into the calendar. I'm not going to comment specifically on who's coming next, but we definitely are just always trying to balance the workloads.
Do we have any news on cast settings per individual god? It's already in Smite 2. It is, I believe, in the controls section, and it should be right there towards the top wherever you're changing. There's an option for global, then there's one per ability, and this will save on a per god basis. So.
Yeah, it doesn't communicate very well in game, but if you are in game as a god and you change that setting and save it, it will always be that setting when you come back as that god. Comment on the worshippers being broken. We talked about this a few minutes ago. From what we can tell, it seems like this is a visual bug in the end of match lobby, and you are actually getting the worshippers if you look at your
master screen.
I saw one, but then I lost it. What happens with passes or skins when we run out of legacy gems? Currently, there's no way to acquire more. Yeah, legacy gems were meant as kind of like a reward for the time and the money that you spent in Smite 1. And some people have a lot and will never run out, and some people didn't have as much because they didn't play Smite 1 as much or didn't spend as much in Smite 1. Once you run out, you're out. And prices are just diamond prices from that point forward, just like they are for new players. 1.3 million gems, somebody in chat says. Go. That's a lot. That is a lot.
Do you know if the Barracuda and Jeff Hinley announcer pack is coming? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we've reached out to them or not.
When I first started playing Smite, I loved me some Jeff Hinley. Yeah. I watched a lot of Jeff Hinley.
Yeah. Someone reporting that there's an issue with buying diamonds on Steam and Epic. I have not heard that. I'm taking a note for us to take a look. If you could let us know what region you are in, that could probably help us out.
Yeah, it might be a region thing, but I would say definitely take a look at, like, if you want diamonds and for some reason it's not working, the Nexus store is always an option. I think there's a chat link if Ahmad can help us out. But Nexus will let you buy diamond codes that you can use in game. It's a legit thing. I wouldn't necessarily trust people that aren't Nexus, but trust Nexus. And yeah, you can support a content creator, and they'll get a percentage of what you spend, or you can support us, and we'll get a bigger percentage of what you spend. But recommend find your favorite content creator and make sure they benefit. Thanks for posting the link. Nexus.gg/smite-store.
Awesome.
Merc has a little intro animation. This is the start of adding them back to the game. I haven't looked at Merc in live, but we have been talking about adding more of like a little intro treatment for every god when you click on them. That's part of what the reframing pass was, like the first step of lobby improvements. So the goal is to, add a little bit of personality to the god selection screen. And there's some more stuff that we have planned for that screen as well, but we are working towards making that better for sure. I have not looked at Mercury in particular. I've not played him since early in dev, so I suppose I should play him in live. Selecting a god now zooms them up close. Was that intentional? Yes, that was the reframing zooming pass that we talked about. I think that should, generally speaking, it should feel better and look better. The gods were framed very inconsistently, so we were trying to get consistent framing for everybody to really show off the gods and let you get to know and feel them a little bit better. I will also say, as part of this update, if you're an Xbox player, your lobby doesn't run at like 10 frames a second anymore. So success. We're getting better every day.
Let's see here. Any information on performance issues in game after the latest patch? I know with our upgrade to Unreal 5.5, we kind of knew that based on your system, it could kind of go either way. I've seen people saying that they've been having some performance issues. I've also seen some people say that it's gotten a lot better for them since the update on Tuesday. If you are having recent issues, if you could just fill out that bug report form, let us know what your system specs are. That way we can dig into it a little bit deeper.
Yep. I will say there is one thing that we are fixing, I believe later today, is like there were some FSR specific issues. So I don't know the full details of that, but potentially people on AMD cards may have some issues that will feel better here.
Yeah, and I believe this the hotfix that will hopefully go live a little bit later today has a handful of client crash fixes as well.
Why don't we do a refer a friend campaign if we want more new players? We actually have talked about this, and it's on our to-do list, and we actually have already made the cosmetics that we will be giving away as part of it. But then it was just prioritizing the tech work to get it done over, generally speaking, we think there's a lot more that we can do to make the game better for new players before we bring more new players in. And if you bring new players into a bad experience, then they're not going to stick around. So generally speaking, our goal is to like improve the core game and then bring more people into the core game. My AMD card is screaming for help. I'm an AMD guy too. I'm a weirdo. You know, I know most people are NVIDIA people, but my home PC is all AMD, and I'm a big supporter of them. So yeah, I feel you. I'm on Xbox, and my loadout and other menus are super laggy. Is this normal? We do know that the profile screen, in particular, like profile loadout, does not perform very well right now. That's a screen that we're going to have to refactor at some point to have better performance, but it hasn't been the top priority for the UI team. So that screen in particular, yes. If you're having performance issues on other screens, please let us know, and we can take a look.
Will we ever add a new currency and allow for god rentals like we did in Smite 1? I feel like that would be a great option for the game.
We don't currently have any plans for that. God rentals were not popular in Smite 1. There were some people who used them a lot, and we hear from them in chat quite frequently, it seems like. But it was a very unpopular feature by and large. You can still try any god in practice. And yeah, we feel like we also just give out tokens pretty frequently now just to unlock gods. We really just don't want to add more currencies. Like, I would love it if we could have fewer currencies than we have right now. But I think that like it's really hard for us to go below the 3-4 that we have right now, right? Because we have this weird, you have legacy gems, you have diamonds, you have wandering market coins, you have like god tokens,
Century pass tokens,
and, all these other tokens. But like, I would love it if we could have fewer currencies, but it's just like, it's hard with the way that our economy is structured.
Let's see.
Mages are the biggest class in Smite 1. Does this mean we'll have a bunch of ported mages back to back? Yes, but I would say there are a lot of mages that are classified as mages that we would not consider mages in the rotation in Smite 2, right?
Traditional mid laners, yeah.
Yeah, so, you have Ao Kuang and Mama Brigitte who are assassins, junglers, right? They're really junglers. So they would take a jungler spot in the rotation. You have characters like Chang'e who could take a solo lane spot in the rotation. You have characters like Kronos or Olarun or Freya who could take a AD carry spot in the rotation, even though they aren't AD, But like we're trying to do a rotation of like role versus Smite 1 class.
Yeah.
So we should be able to rotate more through, and please don't think those guys I just said are confirmed chat, please. But just giving examples of like how the rotation could work given that there are so many more mages in Smite 1.
Yeah.
Zhang should be the next ADC slot. See, we could, I guess. Yeah. See, Zhang, I
or like
guess,
a solo laner.
Laner. Like some gods can work in a lot of slots too. So it's like, one of the ones that I remember we talked about at one point was like Horus, right?
Yeah.
Is Horus more of a solo laner, more of a support? You could say either
or, yeah.
So it's just like trying to figure out where we want to drop people in the rotation.
Are wandering markets more popular than Smite 1 battle passes?
It depends on how you're looking, but generally speaking, I would say yes. I would say that we have a Smite 1 battle passes saw more people buying them on day one, I would say, but over the course of a wandering market, more people will buy a wandering market than bought a battle pass, if that makes sense. Because the system just with battle passes, it's like it feels bad if you don't buy it on day one, whereas wandering markets are around for forever. So you don't feel bad buying it later, and you've been earning progress that you can spend on it in different ways. So we feel pretty good about the system.
Yes, Pavis 100. We are aware. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show about maybe some potential issues with the pointer being missing if you're on PC with controller.
Yep.
Got a note down.
Are we going to remove expired traveling markets from the market interface? Potentially, probably at some point. We're still kind of talking about how we want to handle expired traveler markets. You know, I mean, like realistically, the main reason why we wanted to have them expire at some point, there were kind of two main reasons. The first one was we want to be able to sell the classic skin for legacy gems at some point, and it kind of breaks if we do it at the same time. And then we also just didn't want the UI to get like cluttered with there's 8 million of these things, and you know, how do you know what you want to do, right? Like we are working on kind of more of a redesign of that screen, and still deciding exactly how we want to handle them going forward. I see somebody has asked about the Emir Ultimate bug a couple times. We're still looking into that. I don't have a firm update, but it is towards the top of our bugs to fix list. Is there going to be a feature to delete past community builds from the recent update? At some point, we'll probably have to do like a cleanup
Like a wipe,
pass.
yeah.
But I think that like a lot of even the older builds are still like, they can be valid. They just aren't necessarily ultimate optimal, right? Sometimes I'm like, I've played this god a lot of times, and I just kind of scroll through. I'm like, oh, here's something that sounds interesting. Like I was playing some, and it was built for a couple patches ago, but it was like, I think it was called like Mordred Vampiro build or something. And it was like max lifesteal Mordred. And it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And I maybe it wasn't the most optimal build, but it was a lot of fun. And it's like, you don't want to lose that, but at the same time, you do want to make sure that newer builds kind of can rise towards the top.
Yep.
So we'll probably need to look at that at some point.
Yeah, we've seen this a couple of times, Vaffy, and we've talked about it. A mark all as red button / a claim all button, please, on the gods tab to help clear your notifications.
Yep. Is anything being looked at to discourage double damage comps in duo lane? I don't know anything about this, to be honest. I am not much of a duo laner, so I haven't seen this too much. So my personal perspective is somewhat limited on this, but I'm sure design has feedback, how they feel about it. Is the independent supporter pack a limited time offer? I don't want to miss out. That's a good question. I don't know if we plan on taking that down or not.
Sure.
We should ask Blake what his thoughts are. We'll let you know
whenever he gets back, because
who would be your ideal Joust draft team from The Office? Do I have to be on the team?
Yeah, I know.
Because I mean, I think the best players in The Office are Pon, Clumsy, and Caps would be my top three. Some days Arthur's just a menace.
I know, right? Yeah.
But those would probably be my top three. So I would say that if those three were the Joust team, they would probably.
Oh
win.
yeah.
But that would make sense, right? Because like Caps and Pon were both pros at one point, and Clumsy has played in a lot of really high level tournaments.
He was a coach for a while.
Yeah. Like I don't think he ever actually like was a player on a pro. Maybe he was, and I'm just forgetting. But you know, like the three of them are very good players. And whenever we're trying to balance teams, we have to like,
I know.
Okay, how do we do this?
Yeah,
You
who's
know?
landing against who?
Yeah, because like we have some people that are definitely like newer or just, less good, which is okay. And then we have some people that are like, can be pro level if they're going super try hard. So it's always a challenge balancing our internal playtest teams. Today's game, though, super balanced.
Oh, yeah.
We ended up having
back and forth.
We had to call it. We had to get on with our day. We had tested the thing we wanted to test, but like nobody could end the game.
Yeah, we were at like 45 minutes or something like that. And we're like, we got to go.
And when we quit the game, we were within like 300 gold of each other. Like, it was a very close game. It was a good game, but we were just like, guys, we got to get back to like other work. So it was a good play test.
Is there a gameplay beef between Clumsy and Fawn? No, I don't think they have beef.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, but they are always on opposite teams.
Some playtests can get pretty competitive too.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes people can get a little bit salty. If it's like, dude, I tried to carry this game so hard. Yeah. Anyway, but it's it's good. It's like a real game of Smite.
Yeah.
Favorite Final Fantasy game?
Mine is, this is not mainline, but I'm a huge rhythm game fan, and I love the theater rhythm games.
Oh, yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
That's a good pull. Yep. I like it. 4 is my favorite. It was the first one I played.
Nice.
So
cool.
I think it's just, you fell in love with it.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of like, if that game looked better, people would give it a lot more credit kind of thing, because 6 just looks so much better that people are like, oh my God, 6 is so much better than 4. But I think 4 is really good. So 7 is very good. Yes. Everybody knows 7.
Yep.
I think that 12 is super underrated. 12 is like so much fun. I love the gambit system. I think it's called, where it's like you're like programming your dudes with like how you want them to fight. Like I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into 12. I love 12, and 14 is also great, obviously. But yeah, those are a lot of really good ones. Yep. Good series. I still need to play 16. Is that the newest one?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it came out PS5 exclusive, and I was just like doing something else at the time, and do we bug abuse in our internal games? No.
Of course not.
Occasionally accidentally, but usually it's like, usually it's because we're testing new stuff, and then it's like we're trying to find bugs and whatnot, but not like intentionally. When will we get Ganesha plushie? Stay tuned.
Ooh, who knows?
Stay tuned.
Any thoughts about removing Hecate aspect and Soul Reaver from Assault? We've gotten a lot of feedback about this aspect. Yeah, it's something that the design team is definitely aware of.
Yeah, I would second that we've gotten a lot of feedback about it. It can be a lot.
Can we get the option to hide mastery level from others?
Maybe eventually.
Yeah.
How often do bugs become features?
Like Big Hat Baron. That was a fun one. Yeah.
I will say very rarely, but sometimes.
Yeah.
We actually had a bug in today's playtest that we were like, actually, that might be a fun aspect for that character if that actually happened. I'm not going to say what it was because it probably won't actually be a thing that we do. But sometimes something happens and you're like, oh, that was actually kind of fun. But usually most bugs are just like, that sucked, fix it immediately. So, yeah.
Does the leaderboard for duel mean that ranked duel is work in progress? So with the new queue screen, we did move duel to the competitive queue just because it's kind of like a ranked mode. It has picks and bans. We've got the leaderboard now. I don't know if we ever plan to officially like call it ranked duel. It's just duel, you know?
Yeah. And I think that like, from what I recall, there would be quite a bit of work to be able to support 2 simultaneous like rankings per account right now. So probably not anytime soon that you'll actually see the ranking stuff, but we felt like having the leaderboard and having the pick bands and all that just made sense to go into the competitive section. Would drafts and or bans in some quick fashion be considered for normal Conquest? So we get this feedback, maybe not a lot, but somewhat regularly. And we feel like people need a place where they can go in and play the gods they feel comfortable playing.
Yeah.
And know that it's not going to get like banned or taken away from them. Like if you're a 40-year-old dude who works 8 hours a day and, you know, gets home and you're tired and you got time for like one game of Smite and all you've been thinking about all day is playing Hades, and then you go into your lobby and somebody takes Hades, you're just like, my day is ruined, you know? So I think that like we like that there is a mode where you can just kind of pick things without being interfered with too much. Yeah. The other people have been like, oh, well, then we need an intermediate mode that has banning but isn't ranked. And it's like, just play ranked, guys. Yeah. Like, ranked is not this big scary thing. You know, the highest levels of ranked, maybe, but you're not going to get there unless you're good. So just, you know, play and have fun.
Yeah. Well, we are past 2 p.m. And I saw someone in chat already say it, but it's time for one more question. And it's our last show for the week because, again, we're going to be out on Friday. It is a holiday in the U.S. For those of you that are also in the U.S., hope everyone has a great July 4th. Yeah. You know, eat some hamburgers and hot dogs, have some fireworks. And,
don't blow up your hands.
Yeah. Is somebody at the window? Yeah.
Hi-Rez is literally at the window trying to drag me into a meeting.
Oh, my God. All right. We got to wrap it up. All right. Let's choose a couple
Knocking
questions.
on the window like it's 2 o'clock. Get out of there. We got a meeting. Okay. All right.
One more question is important, right? We got to do it right before we sign off. Hit us with the Alani check before Freedom Friday. We were both rocking Cherry Twist today.
What's the meeting about? I don't know. That's the scary bit. Why did you make? I'll answer this because he's been asking it a lot. Why did we make quick play versus AI only? Is this intentional? We're still, the flow through quick play is not working precisely how we want it to work right now. I will say you should definitely be playing AI games as a new player, as somebody who's new to the queue. But there are things about that flow that are not working properly right now that we still do want to change. And once you get to a certain level, the goal is that you should be able to see players in your matches. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like in the long run because we're still experimenting. But in particular, because this is a new player-focused mode, it's important that your first games are against roughly similar skill level, you know, AI opponents, so that you can get a feel for the game and become better at it in a relatively safe space. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, and dude, I'm not worried about this meeting. It's just, I just don't know what he wants to talk about. It's not a big deal.
Let's see. Someone asked, is there any work being done to improve the tab screen? I like being able to see characters' abilities, but it doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work. I didn't know this. If you have more specifics about it not working, let us know and we can take a look because it is a good feature. So anyway.
I'm taking a note before we sign off. Let's see here. Sweet. Well, Kilgoon, thanks so much for... go ahead.
Double Worshiper Weekend?
Yes, tomorrow at around 10 a.m. And it'll go through next Monday. So you'll have all day starting tomorrow through the weekend, and I believe that turns off next Tuesday at around 10 a.m. So that should be up and running for you all starting tomorrow. We'll post on social media and stuff whenever it's live. But thanks so much for joining me on the show. Chat, thanks so much for hanging out. Hope everyone has a great rest of the week and a great July 4th for those of you who are in the U.S. But until then, we will see you all on the battleground. Peace.